So, yeah, I got Mel Kiper's big board right here. Yeah, it's interesting. There's always one guy that Mel Kiper has I don't necessarily agree with. He's got Drake May pretty high. Drake May at number 7. You know, for whatever reason, I have a feeling Mel Kiper would be high on Drake May. Drake May's not a guy, but yeah, as far as I think Mel Kiper, I think a lot of times his draft rankings are pretty close. I think he always has one or two guys ranked a little higher than they should be, but as far as his big board, I think it is pretty good. I think it is fairly close to at least what I think. Obviously, what I think, obviously, you know, might not be right, but yeah, Jaden Daniels number 2. You know, I'm not as high on Jaden Daniels yet. I think, you know, maybe I got to dive into some more tape. I watched Jaden Daniels play this year, but to me, there's just a lot of. It's as watching LSU fan closely, or watching LSU football closely, you understand their offensive line. LSU's offensive line is very good, and not to like make that statement and then make it sound like, you know, I'm trying to take away from Jaden Daniels, but you got to understand when you have an offensive line like that, it can make a guy who's a run first quarterback and then pass second, if you will, kind of like how Jaden Daniels is. You can make his play like more pronounced. It can make him look even better, I guess, if you will. So I think that not that to take anything away, you know, Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. You know, his running ability is terrific. You know, he's improved as a passer, but when you have an offensive line that caliber, you know, it can kind of make up for. Like, for example, if LSU had a bad offensive line this year, obviously Jaden Daniels wouldn't have had as good a season, but would his play, would he have been able to rise up to, I guess the point I'm trying to make is Jaden Daniels a good enough talent where if LSU's offensive line was average or bad, or in the NFL, if he goes to a team like Washington with an average to bad offensive line, is his talent good enough to kind of overcome the flaws of a bad O-line and average weapons? I think that's the question I have with Jaden Daniels. Like, you look at Lamar Jackson is kind of like the similar comparison to Jaden Daniels. Like, if Jaden Daniels if Lamar Jackson went to a bad franchise, like if Lamar Jackson was on the Bears right now, would he be able to, like, with him being kind of the claim of the run first, pass second guy, would he be able to overcome that in Chicago in the mess of their franchise currently? I don't know. I think, you know, is Jaden Daniels kind of like Lamar Jackson in the sense where he needs to go to a good situation to succeed, or is this hype that he's getting because he is that good of a talent as far as a runner, and then he's improved that much as a passer and is going to continue to improve, or he can overcome all that and be good in the NFL? I think that's the question I have with Jaden Daniels, and that's why I'm not ready to rank him that highly. With that being said. But yeah, Malik Neighbors 4. I like it. He's got Marvin Harrison 3, Malik Neighbors 4. I would have Marvin Harrison the number 2 player in this draft, and then I have Neighbors. Probably have Neighbors there. But yeah, this is what I talk about, how strong the wide receivers are, because Harrison is the number 1 receiver, but he's got Neighbors right behind him at 4, and then Odunze 5. That's a testament to how strong this wide receiver group is. Like, Rome Odunze is the 3rd wide receiver. That just shows the strength of this class. Rome Odunze is the 3rd wide receiver, but the 5th overall player. It's a testament to how good of a player he really is. Like, having him the 3rd ranked wide receiver does not devalue how good of a player Odunze is. Brock Bowers, number 6 overall player. Joe Alt seemed as the consensus offensive tackle, I think, just because I think Alt's kind of like the safe pick. You know, Fashino is a good athlete, but there was some things that I kind of not really questioned, but I don't think there's some things I can't remember off the top of my head where I didn't really like as much. Joe Alt, there's not really, I think why people like Joe Alt is, you know, people, I guess this does not really have anything to do with scouting, but people associate a Notre Dame offensive lineman with, you know, succeeding in the NFL, because there's been a lot of good Notre Dame linemen in the past years. Quentin, or, you know, the Colts offensive lineman, and then Liam Eichenberg's another guy for the Dolphins. He hasn't been great, but just my point, you know, Notre Dame's had you know, so many talented offensive linemen, and Joe Alt, there's not really a weakness to his game. I don't think is Joel going to ever be a franchise like left tackle? But is he going to be a really good starter? I think the offensive tackle position is kind of almost valued in the same light as the defensive tackle position. It's hard to find a really good, like just finding a really good tackle is tough. Like, because a lot of NFL teams, if you're drafting a guy, a tackle or a defensive tackle in the top 5 to 10 picks, you want a really good one because you know that the value of getting a good one, whether it's the Detroit Lions with Penei Sewell or the 49ers with Trent Williams, or even who's another good left tackle in the NFL, whoever, Lane Johnson, the Eagle, whatever team it is, getting a really good left tackle is so valuable. Troy Fontenot from Washington, number 9, like Fontenot. I like Fontenot's game. Dallas Turner, really like his game. Brian Thomas. Yeah, Brian Thomas, he's got the 11th ranked player, number 4 receiver. I keep forgetting to talk about Brian Thomas. I really do like Brian Thomas. I think he was a guy that I kind of have to go back and reevaluate and see where I want to rank him in regards to receiver, because going into this season, he was getting some hype as one of the guys that could be one of the top, not necessarily he wasn't really talked about in the NFL draft. He was talked about as far as the NFL draft a little bit, but a lot of people were talking about him as one of the breakout players in college football. And I watched him last year, and I'm thinking, like, he's got a skill set where I think he could be good, but, like, I don't know if he projects well to the NFL, because I thought he was kind of just a get open type of receiver. I didn't know he necessarily had the upside he really displayed this past season. I think that's what this, like, if you watch Brian Thomas tape and you just watch 2021, 2022, and you didn't watch this past year, you'd probably be like, yeah, this guy's maybe a, I don't know, 3rd, 4th round receiver, maybe a guy that can come in the NFL and be kind of like Demarcus Robinson for the Rams, a guy that can, guy that maybe will play for a few teams, guy that knows how to get open. He's not going to be a guy that's really, a threat to stretch the field and create big plays and come down with, highlight contests in traffic. He's probably not going to be that guy, but can he play in the NFL for a long time and be really good? I think that's what Brian Thomas is going to bring. Laiatu Latu, 13 to UCL, or 13th overall. McCarthy, 14th. Yeah, I tend to agree. He's got Worthy, number 17th overall. Let's see his reasoning. Worthy is an electrifying player with the ball in his hands. I wrote this before he broke the NFL Combine. Yeah, so my thing with, and then Arnold, Terrion Arnold. My issue with Xavier Worthy is I kind of had a hard time making this point, but in my mind it makes a lot of sense, but I'll try to reiterate it. To me, since we saw Xavier Worthy play 3 years, I think we need, if you knew Xavier Worthy were to play 3 years at Texas, big time recruit, was going to go to Michigan, went to Texas. I know that's irrelevant, but point being, big time recruit, Michigan wanted him, Texas wanted him. If you knew that he played 3 years at Texas and you knew he ran a 4.21 at the Combine, you would be like, dang, this guy was just elite off the charts. But that's not really necessarily the case. Xavier Worthy, he had a good career at Texas. Now, is there guys that have had good careers and ran times at the Combine go on to have a really nice career in the NFL? But you're thinking, like, knowing those two things, 3-year career at Texas, I guess we'll throw that in there. If you knew those, okay, I'll say it again. If you knew those two things, that he 3-year career at Texas and ran a 4.21, you think this guy's going to be elite in the NFL. This guy's going to be the next Tyreek Hill. This guy's going to, stretch the defense, create big plays, just burn corners on almost a weekly basis in the NFL. But that may not be the case for Xavier Worthy. So I think that's why the 4.21 is definitely not going to hurt him, but it kind of like puzzles you for a moment. Like, okay, 4.21, why didn't he dominate more? Shouldn't he have dominated more? But I think that's the thing. You look at John Ross, 4.22. John Ross didn't really, he had like kind of one good season at Washington. So, the 4.22 kind of helped him go top 10, because it's like NFL teams are thinking like man, there's a lot. There's got to be a lot more meat on the bone in this case. There's a potential for greatness here. There's a lot more upside. That's what you're all thinking. So that's the case with Xavier Worthy, is knowing that he's had a good career and knowing he ran a 4.21. Is that, I guess they're kind of. I guess to sum up what I'm trying to say is this the ceiling for Xavier Worthy, that even with a 4.21 40 that he's posted, like, is he still just going to be a good receiver? Like, he's not going to be a threat to? Could he not eventually become Tyreek Hill or just an explosive weapon? Like, is he only going to be a guy where we'll see flashes of that? I think that's the question I have for Xavier Worthy, and he could definitely prove me wrong. But I also could be right. So certainly understand that he could prove me wrong. But yeah, we'll see. So that's kind of just my, I guess, slight concern with Xavier Worthy. Nate Wiggins at 23. That's interesting. Okay, let's see what he has. Let's see what his cornerback rankings are. I don't know why he's not as high on. Not sure why he's not as high on Nate Wiggins. Okay, this is interesting. His cornerback ranking. I'll be honest. The more and more I watch the cornerback ranking, I think his cornerback rankings may be spot on, because you talk Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold may be my number one. I think Mitchell may be number two. And then the more I watch of Cooper DeJean, the more I really like him. And if he is viewed as a corner, I think that he probably is the number 3 corner. So yeah, as crazy as this sounds, I think I do have Nate Wiggins, maybe my number 4 corner now. Excuse me. So yeah, that's interesting. I think Mel Kiper. So you got to give Mel Kiper credit. I think he is pretty honest. I think, like, if someone said like a month or two ago, before like the Pro Bowl, before Quinyon Mitchell had the Pro Bowl or what he did at the Senior Bowl rise, and people knew what him and Arnold did. Before Arnold was getting more hype, before all of that, I think some people would be like, "What the heck, Quinyon Mitchell, number 1 corner, Terrion Arnold, number 2 corner, and then what? He's got Kool-Aid McKinstry all the way down at number 8 corner." I think before all this stuff happened, the Combine, the Senior Bowl, more people, NFL evaluators now. I think a lot of people would think this is crazy that Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold 1 and 2. But as more information comes out, I think that's very accurate. And then Cooper DeJean. Boy, I watched Cooper DeJean's tape and I'm like, okay, but then I watched his highlights from this past season. I'm thinking, like, this guy got even better. I think he combined his already talented skill set. So yeah, I actually think these rankings may be spot on for the corner. I would probably maybe put Arnold number 1 corner, Quinyon Mitchell 2, Cooper DeJean 3, Wiggins 4. TJ Tampa from Iowa State, I got to get into his tape, but I'd probably have Kool-Aid higher. Mike Sanders still number 10. Sanders still, I haven't watched his tape, but I watched Mike Sanders still play almost every game in Michigan. Sanders still kind of a similar thing with Cooper DeJean. Where do you want to play him? Do you want to play him on the outside? Do you want to play him at the nickel? Sanders still phenomenal nickel corner. And one thing, I guess, even though this isn't reviewed as highly, Mike Sanders still just a terrific tackler. But we'll keep talking. It's got J.C. Latham, the number 2 tackle. Yeah, I like Latham. Fuaga from Oregon State. Some people have him up there as like maybe the number 2 tackle. Got him in the number 4. Tight ends, yeah, Cade Stover. Cade Stover seems like a lock at the number 3 tight end. Jatavian Sanders. It's interesting. Jatavian Sanders. No one has. I'm almost ready to put Stover ahead of Jatavian Sanders. I like Sanders. I think Sanders gets kind of a boost because he was a 5-star athlete on a really good team, and he's a good blocker. I think that's why Jatavian Sanders kind of gets the bump. I don't think he's not as good of a receiving threat as I thought he would be. You think about 5-star guy at Texas, tight end in a Sarkisian offense. You think this guy kind of lit it up as far as a receiving threat, but that's not necessarily the case for Sanders. But Sanders certainly can block. I have to go back and watch some more of his tape. Certainly can block, aggressive guy, big physical, muscular build. So yeah, I like Sanders, but I don't know. I really like Cade Stover, and obviously Brock Bowers is, he's really has quite the body of work to be the number one. And they have running backs, Jonathan Brooks 1, Jalen Wright, Tennessee. I got to watch his tape. And then Blake Corum 4. I kind of like that he's putting Blake Corum up there. Blake Corum, to me, it kind of, some people won't remember this comparison, but Blake Corum, you kind of get vibes of Mike Hart going back to Michigan. I think Blake Corum's a little more, or has a little bit better movement skills. I think that's what's going to propel him to be better in the NFL. But if you remember, Mike Hart played in the NFL for a year or two, but just, I think he ran like 4.7, just wasn't a fast guy. I think Blake Corum's a guy that just understands the running back position, been well coached by Mike Hart, actually. I think Corum will be good in the NFL, but I think he'll be, having the boost of the offensive line at Michigan helped. I think Corum's a guy who's going to be, I think he could be like a strong backup running back in the NFL, maybe play for a few different teams. I don't think, he'll ever be that kind of that bell cow for a team. Obviously, NFL teams use, multitude of different backs. But, I think Corum will be a strong, RB, a strong backup in the NFL. I think he'll have some upside. But to say he's going to be a bell cow and dominate in the NFL, I think is a stretch of the imagination. But, I like Corum's game. And, he'll be an interesting guy to watch, too. So, thanks for tuning in to the Brand Partial Show. Stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.